Meanwhile, while we continue to expand, we cannot for 1 second, as Representative Plahetsky said, take a breather or take a nap on Michigan. We know that this fight continues. But I also know this. After the last year that I have lived through, I can tell you we are going to win this fight. We just stay organized, we stay vigilant, we stay active, and we work together. So, who would like to watch me slay a zombie? I am about to slay 3 zombies with 1 pen. Let's do it.
Better than The Walking Dead.
I don't ever want someone from the press to ask me again, should we talk about abortion or the economy? If you don't think abortion's about the economy, you might not have a uterus, right? We know that the decision when and whether or not to bear a child is the most consequential decision economically that a family or a woman will make in her lifetime. The government has no business getting in the way of conversations between women and their doctors.
That was Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and that zombie that she just slayed was a 1931 abortion ban that was still on the books in Michigan. The law banned all abortions with no exceptions for rape or incest and called for the prosecution of reproductive care providers. And while that is draconian and dangerous and outright backwards, it is perfectly in line with today's Republican Party. Gretchen Whitmer was able to repeal the 1931 law thanks to a new Democratic trifecta in the state following the midterm elections. This is the first time in nearly 4 decades that Democrats will have full control of the state government, and what's followed was a slew of popular legislation, including a tax plan aimed at helping low-income and senior Michiganders, legislation creating civil rights for LGBT people, and of course, becoming the first state in 58 years to repeal right to work, which is a law designed to kill unions and which led to a drop of more than 100,000 union workers in a state that was the birthplace of the United Auto Workers. It's the first time in 58 years that a right to work law has been repealed, and it's owed solely to the fact that Democrats showed up and voted Republicans out. In fact, just to put the disparity on full display, here's Governor Whitmer with a message specifically for trans Michiganders.
Today is Trans Day of Visibility, and I want you to know that no matter who you are, who you love, how you identify, there's a place for you right here in Michigan. We will fight for your freedom to live your life and to be yourself without fear of discrimination. Earlier this month, I signed an expansion of Michigan's Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to reaffirm protections for sexual orientation and expand protections to include gender identity and expression. This is about ensuring that no one can be fired from their job or evicted from their home because of who they are or how they identify. I'm so proud we got this done. While other states are dedicating themselves to the business of bigotry and discrimination toward the trans community, we are taking action so every Michigander is equal under the eyes of the law and free to be who they are.
That the trans community, not just largely forgotten, but actually vilified by an entire political party, gets to see the top Democrat in the state speaking directly to them is owed to the fact that Democrats turned out and gave power to a party whose entire MO isn't just punching down on the most vulnerable. A statement like that can save lives, especially within a community with such high suicide rates, which is of course exacerbated by the political environment that we're living in right now. All of which is to say, the difference that putting Democrats in power makes cannot be overstated. And let's be clear, Democrats repealing this abortion ban in Michigan isn't the only popular move by Democrats who are flexing their muscles thanks to recent wins. In California, for example, the state is manufacturing its own insulin so that it'll be readily available and affordable. California also mandated that half of all heavy vehicles will be all electric by 2035, which will clean up the worst polluters on the road. In Wisconsin, liberal Judge Janet Protasewicz just beat Dan Kelly, which will flip that court from conservative to liberal. That means that we're virtually assured to see a challenge to Wisconsin's 1849 abortion ban that's currently on the books, and a challenge to some of the most gerrymandered maps in the entire country. Here's a fun one. These are Democratic Governors Michelle Lujan Grisham of New Mexico and Tim Walz of Minnesota, just after both signed laws providing free school meals to all students. Contrast that with Republican Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders from Arkansas, just after signing a law loosening child labor laws in her state. If you needed a clearer distinction between the two parties, well, doesn't get much clearer than that. And look, it feels like we get so much bad news that I am beyond willing to cover the good news. And it's important. It's important to show what the actual results of our work is. That we're not just getting battered with fundraising asks and volunteer requests and pleas to vote. That on the other side of that, the other side of the activism is what happens when we win. And the ways in which people's lives will be massively impacted when we win. Repealing an abortion ban means that a teenage rape victim won't have to upend her life to become a mom against her will. Think about that. About what happens when you give people the freedom that Republicans purport to stand for before their policies actually tear that freedom away. And I hope that Americans, especially those in red states, look at what's happening in Michigan as a model for the rest of the country. The fact is that Republicans have a vested interest in making sure that the government exists solely as a vehicle for culture war bullshit. Why? Because so long as people are distracted by pronouns and Mr. Potato Head and the war on Christmas, then they might not recognize what can happen when you have people in office who actually believe the government can make your life better. And what can happen when you have people in office who actually believe the government can make your life better is finally allowing the government to negotiate lower drug prices. It's capping out-of-pocket healthcare costs for seniors at $2,000 a year. It's the biggest investment to combat climate change in history. It's healthcare for our veterans. It's reshoring chips, leading to a boom in American manufacturing not seen in decades. It's funding the IRS to catch wealthy tax cheats who don't pay their fair share. It's passing the first gun safety law in more than 3 decades. It's starting the process of removing cannabis from the list of Schedule I drugs. It's upgrading our nation's crumbling infrastructure for the first time in modern American history. Every single one of those things is popular, and none of those things would have passed if it wasn't for the fact that Americans voted for Democrats this past election. This is what happens when you give power to the people who know that government can be a force for good, and it's happening in DC and it's happening in the states. So take some time to celebrate these wins, be it in Michigan over the repeal of this draconian abortion ban, or in Wisconsin for flipping the state Supreme Court, or in any other state where Democrats have exercised their power to the benefit of the people. But I do want to flag one thing. Recognize too that these fights won't end. I know it's annoying when people say, well, this is the most important election of our lifetimes, and they'll respond with, well, you said that the last time. Why are we still contending with Republican extremism? Why are we still dealing with abortion bans? Why are we still getting our rights stripped away? And the answer is that Republicans are fighting too, and they have no intention of stopping either. Gretchen Whitmer mentioned zombies. This isn't going to be one of those scenarios where the Republican Party just wakes up one day and snaps out of their extremist spell, like the end of a zombie movie. They're going to fight. And so politics for us isn't going to be a one and done kind of thing. It is a habit where we vote in every election. And if we do that, then not only can we stave off the worst impulses of these extremist Republicans, but we can actually get a lot of the stuff that we've been working toward, like common sense gun reforms, like civil rights protections for LGBT people, like a livable minimum wage, like climate protections, but it'll take us showing up every single time, and frankly, for the amount of good that we're able to do by keeping Democrats in power and keeping Republicans out of power, I gotta say that turning out to vote once every 2 years is hardly asking a lot. It is a pretty light lift if it means we get to keep those extremists out of power and we get to enjoy popular legislation finally getting passed. So good on Governor Whitmer and the rest of the Michigan Democratic Party, good on the voters in Michigan, and good on everyone watching right now in the middle of an off year, because staying engaged and staying informed is our best defense against the right's extremism. Before you go, a quick announcement. I've started a Spanish YouTube channel. Democrats desperately need to be able to appeal to Spanish-speaking audiences, so this is me doing my part. To help that channel get going in the algorithm so that we can finally start spreading our progressive message and breaking the conservative stranglehold on Spanish-speaking media, please subscribe and watch a few videos. The link to that channel, called Brian Tyler Cohen Espanol, is right here on this screen. And of course, to see more of my content in English, make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. The link is also right here on this screen. Thanks so much for watching.